Now let's move ahead and welcome our special guest of the day, Miss Renu Misra, a progressive leader with 25 years of India and international leadership experience. Currently as leader MENA, LIXIL EMENA, she leads Grohe Middle East, Levant, Turkey, Israel, North and West Africa region. She led Grohe India as CEO for 5 years before taking over MENA region in 2017. In fact, let me give some more brief about Ms. Mishra. She has worked across a gamut of industries, including building materials, FMCG, office automation, IT, and telecom. She has driven high-level organizational initiatives, including turnaround management, process re-engineering, people policies, and reorganization to drive culture and performance-driven businesses. So, Ms. Mishra, a very warm welcome to you and a very varied experience that you have across the industry domain. So it's rightly that we should ask you to give us, the keynote address of the day. Over to you.
Thank you, Sapna, and I would like to thank Exchange for Media Group and also Tripti and everyone who's invited me for the opening address. Really happy to be a part of Realty Plus Women Icon Conclave and Awards to 2021. You know, it's really overwhelming and proud to be in any part of any women forum, right? When I was born in Delhi, so just as an introduction, brought up there, pretty much studied there, my school, college, my MBA. And when we were aspiring as young women, right, to go into career, this is not what we had anticipated the career path will look like. So I am leading now a region which has 49 countries, and I've led Grohe India before. So it's been, I would say it's opportunity, it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of dedication, but then it's also about, making choices and paving a way. Just to give you a little bit more than what Sapna said, I think my first initial, starting in was with IT and telecom software companies. That's the time the world was opening up to a lot of multinationals. It goes back to 1996, and I worked about 9 years there. I think these two organizations laid the foundation of what I do today, because they were all startup multinationals. We got the opportunity to do things differently. Most of the functions did not exist. So I joined them in finance, and then I realized that I'm dabbling with IT and HR and CRM and everything, because we did not have all the headcount in place, and I wanted to learn more. So I think it was both ways. And that really gave me a lot of setup experience, a lot of experience into multitasking, a lot of multifunctional exposure projects. And then my next 5 years with Xerox and Pepsi were more about grounding and working with Fortune 500 companies and, taking in skills which are specialized to finance and controlling and audit and taxation. And also a lot of it was dealing with people and organizing a lot of culture setting and a lot of work around making big teams. Then I joined Grohe, that was 2010, and it's been more than 11 years now. And I joined them as the CFO. And I would say that that was pretty much culmination of a lot of knowledge that I had acquired, and then also led the supply chain operations there. And I would say that when 1.5 years later, the Grohe India opportunity as the CEO came in, it came in with a lot of experience that I had garnered, but then I still did not know how to do sales, right? So that was still my learning time, and I put my heart, head, hands into it, traveled across the country, the length and the breadth, met a lot of designers, developers, our industry colleagues, our distributors, and garnered that experience of leading the organization. And I would say that, it was really an experience that brought me into handling a bigger region that I have today. And the region has a huge length and breadth. Again, did the same, jumped into it right straight, went visiting many countries, acquired experience, and a lot of cultural knowledge. And I would be really thankful for all the experiences that I have around the last 25 years, because people have been a foundation of it. You learn when you interact with different people. You learn to understand views, perspectives, and also be more resilient. And when I'm talking about all this, I cannot forget the support of my family, and especially my husband, who has been, I can say, the air beneath my wings, because if he wasn't there supporting me through this journey, it would have been very difficult to bring up our two lovely boys who are 21 and 13 now, and have that wonderful journey of a great family life and a great professional life. I mean, it just comes all together in this. But then I have a lot of things to say about it, because this is what it looks like externally when you read people's LinkedIn profiles and see what they're doing. But there is so much more which goes behind. So there was a constant learning, acquisition of new skills, throwing into new challenges all the time. And it's not that you always succeed, right? You can fail, you can fall, but then you have to be able to dust yourself, get up and get running again. So having that motivation to do this constantly is your own motivation, right? So you choose your path, you choose your journey, you make your choices, but then don't regret them. So that's what I think I learned over my career of so many years, and dealing with different people, different kinds of cultures. And above all, there is no shortcut to hard work. So there is that time and dedication and hard work, which everything that you're passionate about requires. And that's, like I said, you can choose your own pace. I mean, you can define your own success. Success can be really different for different people. And there is no one size which fits all. So there is no common journey for all. So everybody has a different journey. And I would say that I'm enjoying mine. Not yet ready to hang the boots. So I would say that I'm still enjoying mine. The other big portion of discussion, and I was really interacting with Sapna and was wanting to talk about, was diversity and inclusion, right? The biggest buzzwords in social media and everywhere that we go in. But from my point of view, inclusion is really about diverse views. It's about everything. So it's a mindset. You can't run it like a program. You cannot say that, okay, now I head this company and I'm a woman leader, so diversity and inclusion is on my agenda. And it is not only about gender. So it is about cultures, religions, genders, and thoughts and actions, everything diverse. We are handling a big group of millennials today. Their way of working, and I would say that their mindsets are completely different than ours. And I think that's why we also need something very different to engage them and keep them motivated into the workforce. And that's men and women alike. So I would say that inclusion is a very big part of mindset. How do we achieve it? Where we work is give constant feedback to people, encourage them to have conversations. I personally feel that conversations and communication open up a lot of developmental path, or let's say even engaging in a project. If you do not communicate well enough, then you have not reached the milestone that you want. So you want them to converse, you want to give them opportunities to do that. You want to make sure that you're nudging people to give each other feedback, good, bad, what's worked, what's not worked, and that should be a constant process. And my growing up, and when I relate this experiences, is that probably we were very even shy to go and ask for any support, right? So I think today that's probably not the challenge with the millennials. They would reach out to you if they need to be guided and coached, but we should be doing this consciously as leaders. Guiding, mentoring, and coaching is very important, and men and women alike. So inclusion cannot be about, oh, let's get more women workforce into the organization. Inclusion is about that you include both, and then they do understand that when they grow up into their lives, they would need to co-partner and co-shoulder a lot of responsibilities at home and at work. So it's actually both. So continuously make an effort to coach, to mentor, to give your listening ear to people. I think that really works across the board. I mean, be your customers, be your team members, colleagues, everybody, right? So giving a listening, lending an ear is so important, because that's where you understand people more, they understand you more. There is let's say, a transparency, and that's where it works. And I would say that that's what we're trying constantly to lay a foundation, lay a culture in the organization, which is transparent, which is open, there is respect, there is trust, and then that allows that information to flow through. And when we talk about inclusion, that's, I would say, is the stepping stone. And then comes equity. And when I say equity, doesn't mean that, you know, you give everything to everyone equally. It's about everybody's needs may be different than the other. How are we supporting, let's say, women who want to take a career break? Even men who want to take a career break because probably they're the only children of their parents and they need to, you know, take care of them during a health crisis. And we saw all of that during the pandemic. What happens to women who go for relocate cities for marriage? What happens when they want to have children and want to come back to the organization, but probably we are not ready for it? I'm sure there are a lot of things which have improved over a number of years, but I still feel that we still have a long way to make sure that we have this workforce back, because then you have your entry level dynamic young and men and women. And then in the middle level, you see that a lot of women actually give up on their career because they did not get the opportunities or they did not get the support system back home or from the organization to come back. And that's why probably we have lesser and lesser women across the world in leadership positions. So that funnel needs to be supported, because that's how, you know, your biological age and your, you know, professional clock is probably at the same time when you want to rise in your career, move from middle to senior management, but you also want to have a family. And I think that's why I said that the choices can be yours, the path can be yours, and the pace can be yours, but then there has to be still support coming in from the organizations and from leaders like us. I think that's what I'm very, very passionate about. And I would really round it up, you know, saying that there is a lot more which women can contribute into the organization with the training, the knowledge, the resilience, the patience, and the diversity that we have in our, and the multitasking abilities. But then it's also about organizations to strike that balance for them, to make sure that there is partnership. And Sapna, that's what I would want to say on my opening address to all. We have eminent group of men and women here. I'm sure some of them share my views. Some of them would have, you know, more knowledge and better views, and their journeys would have been different. But yes. I do see that you know, business leaders and entrepreneurs, and especially women entrepreneurs, have a lot to mentor and coach the young ladies who are coming into the career journey.
That's right, Ms. Misra. You very correctly said that, you know, the older generation of women professionals who are in the industry now have to create the path for the younger generation, mentor them, guide them, and as you rightly said, the choice is ours, pace is ours, and the success, the meaning of success, obviously is different from for everyone. You have had a diverse career, as you also mentioned, with various industries, starting with IT and ITES, FMCG, office automation. How are you seeing building materials and construction segment different from the other industries that you have had experience in?
I think the advantages of building material or construction industry is that it is pretty much more stable, in the sense that we sell products, I mean, in the sense for Grohe and also for other companies which are in the industry, and also for the developers, that we have something which is a bit more long-term and sustained for our consumers. So then there is, let's say, the shelf life is more, right? Kind of. So, but the downside of that is that the industry becomes much more slower to change. So I think the pace of change is very important, because that's the only constant for all of us. And our pandemic actually threw us into that situation of, we never imagined that there can be something which can be done off-site. You know, you can meet customers on Zoom, or there is a project still being, you know, talked about, and we are doing it on Zoom because we are a touch and feel industry. But then if that brought us into a semi, you know, virtual and semi-physical situation, and I'm sure every kind of change is possible in the industry. But I do see that the future is still here, because we will always be very close to consumers in terms of providing them an abode which they want for a life, for people, the millennials who are changing cities and obviously living in different houses, and obviously then engaging a lot of architects and designers to do the homes. So the journey is very different than people living in one city for their whole life, and now an average moving between 4 and 6 cities in their lifestyle. So I think lifespan. So I guess the industry has much more to offer.
Okay, that's great. Just to get a feel that how we are at real estate dealing with building materials and construction and design aspect of it. So how does that stand a characteristic ways from other industries? But we also have read various recent reports and industry research. The recent one, as I mentioned to you, was Grand Thorntons, which says that India actually is leading other global countries in terms of women in leadership roles. So they quote as 39% against the global average of 31% of women in leadership roles in Indian businesses. So what is your view on this changing outlook of Indian businesses? How did it happen? What has brought this change?
I think a lot of it is education. And I mean, I hear a lot of people, saying, oh, India is about rote learning. But, I would give a lot of credit to what I do today because of my education, because in the end, it was structured. Yes, it was probably more aggressive. We can say that. I mean, when we compare it with international education, but then it brings out also the best in children. Like we say, if an average small child can learn at least 5 languages simultaneously, right? So that's the intelligence level that probably an average child has. And, we are all amongst them who have studied, grown, and probably competition, because we are a big country, also brings out a best in people. I mean, that's one perspective. The second perspective definitely is that the opening up of the economies in the 1990s brought in a lot of opportunities for a lot of young professionals, right? I mean, a generation before us was going westwards because they had more career opportunities. And later in 2000s and 2010 and onwards, we saw a reverse brain drain when people from Americas and wanted to return and start entrepreneurship back in India. So I guess it was also about timing of where our economy opened up. It is also a lot of credit to Indian entrepreneurs, because I see that a lot of Indian firms today have their family members, and especially women, in the board, in businesses, and also taking over the lead from their fathers who had, let's say, set up the business, which is a very good example also that homegrown companies are doing that. More and more multinationals have diversity and inclusion in their agenda. So they started with that. So, okay, you can do a quota system for women to get in, but in the end, when you're rising up your career, it is about your performance. It is really about what you get on the table. So I think all of this in the last 30 years is what I see has brought in a very big shift from the women workforce who've been, I wouldn't say neglected, but not taken. They did not take those opportunities, or they were not hired consciously, to now being in the middle and the senior management levels. So that's really a welcome change. And India has really brought that up. I mean, I can say I'm an example of that, right? I moved from India to Middle East, and I do not belong to the region, but my organization did think that I can lead 49 countries together, right? So that's the way it's paving way for many of us.
Okay, that's correct. Basically, the change in mindset, I think, between, among Indian entrepreneurs, business heads, and the businesses as a whole, I think that has, but also, a lot of studies have said because of pandemic, the hardest hit have been the women professionals, leaving the job or taking a break. What do you have to say on that?
I think that's true, because I saw a lot of women, multitasking between children, their schools being online, their roles, and their old parents also to be taken care of. And it was all across the world, is that what we were seeing. But I do see that they came out more stronger, more resilient. And I never actually had a conversation with anyone in the last 1.5 years who would say that because of this, they wanted to quit. I think people were very appreciative of the flexibility that the environment still gave them. despite the challenges. Everybody knew it's short term, and they will move on, then there will be change. And actually, the positive part of this is that it has brought to all of us that flexible way of working is the way of life, and which would open up more and more opportunities for women, and especially women with young children, right? And that's where we lose maximum women force. And I would recommend more and more organizations to extend that so that we can retain them and see them growing up the ladder.
That's right. It's been a huge learning curve, as you rightly said, that no one had thought that we could work remotely and equally efficiently, and we are doing it for past 1.5 years. And a good opportunity for all those women who would like to work remotely. It opens those opportunities for them. So before we let go of you, your word of advice for the young, as you said, that a lot of millennials now you have in your company who are joining, and they are quite a vibrant lot, as we all know. So what are your word of advice for them, the young women professionals joining the industry?
I think I would say that you have to be a lifelong student, right? So learning never stops at any age. Yes, I can say that probably I'm slower than my 21-year-old, but then, it's still important that, you keep upskilling yourself. And that was a learning which came in even after our management studies and our first and the second job. We realized that every time something changes, you have to be ready before it, right? So constant upskilling, being curious is really important, and it's the first step. I would take a leaf from my experience of, making sure that you take enough risks. Yes, experiment, learn, stretch yourself, and try something new constantly. I think that's a very big upskilling opportunity, and I see that our younger students who joined us, because we have a very big student program in the Middle East, where we have students all across our countries. More than 20 countries have students who we take them, and then we, groom them to take firm roles. I'm seeing them doing so much stuff which we didn't do. So I think being a lifelong student is important. And I'm a firm believer of taking risk. I really think that it is important. If you're an average person works 30 to 40 years in a corporate career, you have enough and more opportunities to do something different. And gone are the days when people think of vertical growths. Horizontal, moving from one function to another, and even taking breaks for logical, personal reasons, and then coming back with renewed energy and trying something new is something which we should do. And I don't think we have to really preach our new kids on this. They are for it, is what we hear in our interviews and our interactions. And actually having a young force keeps us young. That's what I can tell you.
That's very true. So, the millennials are a vibrant lot. They are dynamic. They are ready to take the risk, as you said, that they are already prepared for this. And these uncertain times actually have, what you said, that constant learning is very important, because the times are so uncertain. We need to be prepared to reskill ourselves if need be, or upskill ourselves if need be. So thank you so much for sharing those very wise words with us, with our audience here. And we thank you for taking out time and joining from Dubai to be here with us and talking to us. Thank you, Ms. Renu Misra, for being here with us today.
Thank you, Sapna, and all the best for the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much.